and welcome to my channel, Joyce's Affordable Glam Life 360, or just Joyce. I'm on here with another Get Ready With Me and Unsolved Mystery. Although this unsolved mystery is a little more of a question than anything. And so that question is, can a man become a musical genius after experiencing a head trauma? So if you would like to find out what this story is all about, what this mystery is all about, then keep on watching. So this is basically this is a mystery, but it's also a question. And the question is, can a man become a musical genius after experiencing a head trauma? So we're going to dig into this question or mystery. I wanted to mention before I get too much into the story, this is a new eyeshadow palette that I picked up. It's by BH Cosmetics, Smitten in Switzerland. This goes along with, I did a few weeks back, a Get Ready With Me mystery with the Barcelona palette, which is like the same series the BH Cosmetics has out. And so this is Smitten in Switzerland. And the colors are just so stunning. They look like that. Derek Amato was born on November 19th, 1966. He was a regular kid with no special talents as a child. Derek always had an interest in music. He played the guitar a little. He could also belt out chopsticks on the piano. However, he never actually had any formal lessons. When Derek became an adult, he tried different fields of work, with a string of jobs in sales, coaching baseball, public relations, and coaching karate. But he was unclear what he would like to do and what career he wanted to pursue. In 2002, his financial situation became critical after Derek lost everything on a business investment. After a business investment went down, he became homeless. While he was looking for a job, he spent about 3 months sleeping in his car at rest stops. Eventually, he found a job with the U.S. Postal Service, which allowed Derek to get back on his feet. In October of 2006, Derek stood above the shallow end of a swimming pool and called out for his friend who was in the jacuzzi to toss him a football. He launched himself through the air, head first, arms outstretched. He believed he could roll onto one shoulder as he caught the ball and then slide across the water. Derek miscalculated this, and the tips of his fingers brushed across the football. His head slammed into the pool's concrete floor. He hit the floor so hard that it felt like an explosion. He pushed himself to the surface, clapping his hands to his head, and then Derek was convinced that the water that was streaming down his cheeks was actually blood gushing from his ears. Amato collapsed at the edge of the pool into the arms of his friends, Bill Peterson and Rick Strum. Derek Amato was 39, working as a sales trainer when this all occurred. He was visiting his hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, from Colorado, where he was presently living. His 2 high school friends drove him to his mother's home after this accident occurred. My question is, wouldn't you take him directly to the hospital, considering that he hit the concrete floor and he thought he was well, whatever. So maybe he didn't want to go. I'm not really sure. They weren't clear about that. As they were driving Amato, he was drifting in and out of consciousness, insisting he was a professional baseball player who was late for spring training in Phoenix, Arizona. Amato's mother rushed him to the emergency room. So I guess mom is the one who decided, no, you need to go to the hospital. Something is not right. Doctors diagnosed Derek with a severe concussion. The hospital sent him home with instructions to be woken every few hours. it was weeks before the full impact of Amato's head trauma would become more apparent. Some of what occurred was that he lost 35% of his hearing in one ear. He has reoccurring headaches, and he has memory loss. Most dramatic consequence appeared just a few days after his accident. Derek awoke hazy after near continuous sleep and headed over to his friend's Sturm's. I think it's called Sturm's is his last name, his friend's name. Headed over to Sturm's house. He and his friend sat chatting in his friend's makeshift music studio. Derek spotted an electric keyboard that he was very curious about. Without even realizing what he was doing, he stood up from his chair and sat in front of the keyboard. He had never in his life played the piano. He never had an inclination. He never felt like it. He never at all to do this ever. His fingers found the keys, what seemed to be basically by instinct, and to his amazement, his fingers rippled across them. Derek would speed up, slow down, let pensive tones hang in the air as he played, and then put them into rich chords as if he had been playing for years. When Derek looked up, his friend's eyes were filled with tears. Derek played for 6 hours, leaving his friend's house early the next morning. He was feeling wonder and amazement that he could do this. Derek went home and was like, I need to figure out what's going on with me. Like we all would, if something medically was wrong with us, how many of us do this? We look up what's going on. And then we feel like, oh, we can self-diagnose ourselves. Side note. Anyway, he decided to go on the internet and he searched for an explanation of what's going on with him. He would type in the words like gifted and head trauma. He was shocked at what he found. He read about Tony Sikoria, who was an orthopedic surgeon in upstate New York who was struck by lightning while talking to his mother from a telephone booth. Sikoria became obsessed with classical piano and taught himself how to play and compose music. After being hit in the head at age 10, Orlando Sorrell could name the day of the week for any given date. And then a bad fall at the age of 3 left Alonzo Clemen with permanent cognitive impairment. Derek learned from research. Clemens developed a talent for sculpting intricate replicas of animals. And then lastly, Derek found the name Daryl Trevert, a world-recognized expert on savant syndrome. This is a condition in which individuals are typically mentally impaired, but they demonstrate remarkable skills. Derek contacted Trevert, who is now retired from the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine. Trevert diagnosed Derek with acquired savant syndrome. In the 30 or so known cases, ordinary people who suffer brain trauma suddenly develop what seems like superhuman new abilities. Artistic brilliance, mathematical mastery, photographic memory. One acquired savant, a high school dropout, brutally beaten by muggers, is the only known person in the world able to draw complex geometric patterns called fractals. I think is how you say it. You know me. I'll put it up here, the right way to say it. This person also claims to have discovered a mistake in pi. Hey, wasn't pi just this past week? Just a little tidbit there. A stroke transformed a mild-mannered chiropractor into a visual artist who has had work published in the New Yorker and in gallery shows. His work has been known to sell for thousands of dollars. The neurological causes of acquired savant syndrome are poorly understood. The internet has made it easier for people like Derek Amato to connect with researchers who study savants. And improved brain imaging techniques have enabled those scientists to begin to probe the unique neural mechanisms at work. Some have even started to design experiments that investigate the possibility that there is a genius that lies in all of us that is just waiting to be unleashed. Bruce Miller directs the UCSF Memory and Aging Center in San Francisco. He is a behavior neurologist who treats elderly people with Alzheimer's disease and late life psychosis. In the mid-1990s, the son of a patient pointed out his father's new obsession with painting. As his father's symptoms worsened, the man said his father's paintings improved. Miller began to identify other patients who displayed unexpected new talents as their neurological degeneration continued. As dementia laid waste to brain regions associated with language, higher order processing, and social norms, their artistic abilities exploded. These symptoms defied conventional wisdom on brain disease in the elderly. Artists afflicted with Alzheimer's typically lose artistic ability. Miller realized they were consistent with another population described in the literature, savants. Not only that, savants often display an obsessive compulsion to perform their special skill, and they exhibit deficits in social and language behaviors, defects present in dementia patients. Miller wondered if there might be neurological similarities too. The exact mechanisms that work in the brains of savants have never been identified and can vary from case to case. Studies dating back to at least the 1970s have found left hemispheric damage in autistic savants with prodigious artistic, mathematical, and memory skills. Miller wanted to find out precisely where in the left hemisphere of regular savants, whose skills usually become apparent at a very young age, the defects existed. He read the brain scan of a 5-year-old autistic savant able to reproduce intricate scenes from memory on Etch-a-Sketch. Single photon emission computed tomography showed abnormal inactivity in the anterior temporal lobes of the left hemisphere, exactly the result he found in his dementia patients. In most cases, scientists attribute enhanced brain activity to neuroplasticity, the organ's ability to devote more critical real estate to developing skills as they improve with practice. Miller offered a wholly different hypothesis for the mechanisms at work in congenital and acquired savants. Savant skills, Miller argues, emerge because the areas ravaged by disease, those associated with logic, verbal communication, and comprehension, have actually been inhibiting latent artistic abilities present in those people all along. As the left brain goes dark, the circuits keeping the right brain in check disappear. So this is a lot of medical knowledge or medical definitions and words and so forth, but it kind of goes along with the story in order to understand the story. So that's why I am explaining it in as much detail as I am. As the left brain goes dark, the circuits keeping the right brain in check disappear. The skills do not emerge as a result of newly acquired brain power. They emerge because the first time the areas of the right brain associated with creativity can operate unchecked. The theory fits with the work of other neurologists who are increasingly finding cases in which brain change has spontaneously and seemingly counterintuitively led to positive changes. eliminating stuttering, enhancing memory in monkeys and rats, even restoring lost eyesight in animals. In a healthy brain, the ability of different neural circuits to both excite and inhibit one another plays a critical role in efficient function. In the brains of dementia patients and some autistic savants, the lack of inhibition in areas associated with creativity led to keen artistic expression and an almost compulsive urge to create. In the weeks following Derek Amanto's accident, he would find himself tapping out patterns wherever. He would sometimes wake up from naps and he would find his fingers drumming against his legs. Derek bought a keyboard. Without it, he felt anxious and overstimulated. Once he was able to sit down and play his new keyboard, he felt an immediate sense of relief and calm, and a sense of calm that came over him. He would shut himself away for 2 to 3 days on end. It would just be him and his piano, exploring his new talent, trying to figure out, to wrap his head around what has happened to him. He opened himself up to letting the music pour out of him. So instead of being scared by it or, just not wanting to deal with it, he decided, no, this is okay. This is going to be okay. Amato experienced other symptoms from the accident that were not positive. He has black and white squares that appear in his vision as though a transparent filter had been produced before his eyes that moved in a circular pattern. He is also plagued by headaches. The first one came 3 weeks after his accident, but soon it turned into as many as 5 a day. Whew. I have had my share of headaches, migraines, and 5 a day. Whoa, no, thank you. His head would pound and light and noise were excruciating. So it does sound like a migraine. Once he collapsed in his brother's bathroom from it, and another occasion he almost passed out in Walmart. Through all of these negative experiences, Derek felt unambiguous. He is convinced he has been given a gift, and it wasn't just the personal gratification of music. With Amato's new condition, he realized he had commercial potential. There is definitely a fascination with savants that dates back as far as the condition itself. In the 19th century, blind Tom Bethune became an international celebrity. He was a former slave who could reproduce any song on the piano. He played at the White House at 11 years old and toured the world at 16 years of age. Over the course of his life, he earned over $750,000, which back then at that time, that was a fortune. And then there's the movie Rain Man that I assume most people know about that are probably my age or older or a little younger. When Dustin Hoffman introduced theater goers with his character. Since then, prodigious savants have become staples of shows like 60 Minutes. Acquired savants especially are perfect fodder for a society obsessed with self-improvement, reality television, and pop psychology. John Sarkin, the chiropractor turned artist, became the subject of profiles in GQ and Vanity Fair, a biography and TV documentaries. He says, to be honest, I don't even mention it to my wife anymore. When the media calls, Sarkin says, it's part of life. Jason Paget, the savant who can draw fractals, inked a book deal after he was featured on Nightline and in magazines and newspaper articles. When he was reached by a journalist by phone, he complained that his agent no longer allowed him to give interviews. It's very frustrating, he says. I want to talk to you, but they won't let me. Well, if it's about your life, shouldn't they let you in? To Amanto, acquired savantism looked like the opportunity he had been awaiting for his entire life. Derek's mother had always told him he was extraordinary, that he was put on the planet to do great things. Well, how many parents say that? First of all, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying a lot of parents say that, right? A series of uninspiring jobs had followed him after high school, like selling cars, delivering mail, doing public relations. He would reach for the brass ring, but it would always elude him. He once auditioned for American Gladiators, and he failed the pull-up test. He opened a sports management company handling marketing and endorsements for mixed martial arts fighters. It went under in 2001, but now, after his accident, he had a new path. Derek Amano planned a marketing campaign. He wanted to be more than just an artist, musician, and performer. He wanted to share his story to inspire people. He also wanted more than anything to be on Survivor. When the first interviewer called from a local radio station, Amano was ready to talk. Alan Snyder, a neuroscientist at the University of Sydney in Australia, is more interested in acquired savants than most. Since 1999, Snyder has focused his research on studying how their brains function. He has also pressed further into speculative territory than most neuroscientists feel comfortable with. So he is attempting to produce the same outstanding abilities in people with undamaged brains. Snyder published what many consider to be his most substantiated work. He and his colleagues gave 28 volunteers a geometric puzzle that has stumped laboratory subjects for more than 50 years. The challenge was to connect 9 dots arrayed in 3 rows of 3, using 4 straight lines without retracing a line and or lifting the pen. None of the subjects could solve the problem. Then Snyder and his colleagues used a technique called transcranial direct current stimulation to temporarily immobilize the same area of the brain that has been destroyed by dementia in Miller's acquired savants. The non-invasive technique, which is used to evaluate brain damage in stroke patients, delivers a weak electrical current to the scalp through electrodes, depolarizing or hyperpolarizing neural circuits until they have slowed to a crawl. After the TDCS, more than 40% of the participants in Snyder's experience solved the problem. None of those in a control group that was given placebos could solve the problem. The experiment, Snyder argues, supports the hypothesis that the abilities observed in acquired savants emerge once brain areas normally held in check have become unfettered. A crucial role of the left temporal lobe, he believes, is to filter what would otherwise be a dizzying flood of sensory stimuli, sorting them into previously learned concepts. So those concepts, or what Snyder calls mindsets, allow humans to see a tree instead of all its individual leaves, and to recognize words instead of just the letters. How could we possibly deal with the world if we had to analyze to completely fathom every new snapshot? He says, savants can access raw sensory information normally off limits to the conscious mind, because the brain's perceptual region isn't functioning. To solve the 9-dot puzzle, one must extend the lines beyond the square formed by the dots, which requires casting aside preconceived notions of the parameters. Our whole brain is geared to making predictions so we can function. Snyder says, if something naturally helps you get around the filters of these mindsets, that is pretty powerful. Trevor, for one, finds the results of the experiment compelling. I was a little dubious of Snyder's earlier work, which often involved asking his subjects to draw pictures. He says, it just seemed pretty subjective. How do you evaluate the change in them? But his recent study is useful. Snyder thinks Amato's musical prodigy adds to mounting evidence that untapped human potential lies in everyone, accessible with the right tools. When the non-musician hears music, he perceives the big picture melodies. Amato, Snyder says, has a literal experience of music. He hears individual notes. Miller's dementia patients have technical artistic skills because they are drawing what they see, details. Barrett Brogard believes the left brain, right brain idea is an oversimplification. Brogard is a neuroscientist and philosophy professor at the Center for Neurodynamics at the University of Missouri St. Louis. She has another theory. When brain cells die, they release a barrage of neurotransmitters. And this deluge of potent chemicals may actually rewire parts of the brain, opening up new neural pathways into areas that were previously unavailable. I quote, "Our hypothesis is that we have abilities that we cannot access," Brogar says, "because they are not conscious to us. We cannot manipulate them. Some reorganization takes place that makes it possible to consciously access information that was there lying dormant," unquote. In Amato's case, she says, he learned barcodes on a guitar in high school and even played in a garage band. Quote, "Obviously, he had some interest in music before, and his brain probably recoded some music unconsciously." She says, he stored memories of music in his brain, but he didn't access them. Somehow, the accident provoked a reorganization of neurons that brought them into his conscious mind. Brogard speculates it's a theory she hopes. Amato has been featured in newspapers and television shows around the world. He was one of 8 savants featured on a Discovery Channel special in 2010 called Ingenious Minds, and he was on PBS's Nova. He appeared on a talk show hosted by Jeff Probst, and he appeared on the Today Show. Amato released his first album in 2007. In 2008, he played in front of several thousand people in New Orleans with the famed jazz fusion guitarist Stanley Jordan. He was asked to write the score for an independent Japanese documentary. But while Amato's musical prowess never fails to elicit amazement in the media, reviews of his music is mixed. Amato hasn't exactly been coy about his desire for fame, mailing packets of material to reporters, sending Facebook requests to fellow acquired savants, and continuously updating his fan page. This kind of behavior has raised some doubts among experts. Rex Jung, a neuroscientist at the University of New Mexico, grew suspicious of Amato after reading about his history as an ultimate fight promoter. "I couldn't be more skeptical," he says. Jung studies creativity and traumatic brain injuries. He has spent time with Alonzo Clemens, the savant who sculpts animals. He believes acquired savantism is a legitimate condition, but he notes Amato does not display other symptoms one would expect. Many savants, Jung says, exhibit exquisite computational or artistic capacities, but almost always at the expense of other things the brain does. Clemens, for example, has severe developmental disabilities. I am highly skeptical of savants that are able to tie their shoes and update their Facebook pages. and do strong marketing campaigns to highlight their savant abilities, all at the same time. There is no way to definitively prove or disprove Amato's claims, but a number of credible scientists are willing to vouch for his authenticity. Andrew Reeves, a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic, conducted MRI scans of Amato's brain for ingenious minds. The test revealed several white spots, which Reeves acknowledges could have been caused by previous concussions. We knew going in that it was unlikely to show any sort of signature change, Reeves says. But Amato's description of what he experiences fits too well with how the brain is wired, in terms of what parts are adjacent to what parts for him to have concocted it, in my opinion. Reeves believes the black and white squares in Amato's field of vision somehow connect to his motor system, indicating an atypical and auditory regions of his brain. So the question or the mystery is, if this skill could emerge spontaneously in Amato, who's to say what spectacular abilities might be dormant in the rest of us? So again, the mystery is, so there are theories still in science about what has happened in terms of this acquired savant syndrome. And as you can see, scientists disagree on what exactly has occurred for this to happen. And again, what's to say that all of us are geniuses and we just have to open up the brain, so to speak, to find out about that, which I find so interesting. And that's again why this mystery caught my eye in terms of working with special needs children, especially autism, for the past, not now, but before, for years. And how that was mentioned in here, like Rain Man, autism, but he had this incredible, he could count the matches or the toothpicks that fell on the floor. Excuse me, I forgot if it's toothpicks or matches. Someone tell me in the description, in the comments below, because I totally forgot. Was it toothpicks? I think it was toothpicks. But he could tell you exactly how much fell within seconds. So again, that's why I found this so fascinating, and the reason why I also found it fascinating for the fact that, you know, we are always trying to find our passion or our path or what we're good at. And kind of in a way, by having a head trauma, you kind of find out what that path or that what is meant to be happen. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this mystery, more of a mystery question video. And if you did, please hit the thumbs up. It helps me out. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, will you please consider subscribing to my channel? If you already are subscribed to my channel, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your love and your support. And I will leave you with this quote that I left in my previous video or saying. In a world where you can be anything, please consider being kind. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.